familiar with Asa Hilliard and his work. But in reading books like Diop's, I think that's his most famous work, in regards to whether the ancient Egyptians were black or not. Now, because I forget if he actually cited Gerald Massey as a source, but didn't he cite a number of European Egyptologists in his book?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that is because according to Massey in like 1881, he did make the claim that the ancient Egyptians were black people. But what he also said was that these black people didn't necessarily share the same phenotype as their counterparts in sub-Saharan Africa.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's always a caveat.
Right. And I don't know how wrong he was in that assertion, because I've read from from the Sudan, is coming up from the lower parts of Africa. So I found that interesting, and I think it kind of meshes with what Gerald Massey did claim. So
yeah, well, I think that we have enough evidence to confidently say that the ancient people of Kemet were indigenous to Africa. Now, I don't think every group of people in Africa have, the same, like, you can look at certain people in Africa, and according to where they are, they have a distinctive look and a distinctive build. Some are taller, some are skinnier, some are more burly. And so, to say that they weren't this particular phenotype or that particular phenotype, I mean, they were, as long as he's saying they were indigenous to Africa, I don't have much of an argument, because we know all African people don't look alike. That's just not today, and I would submit not ever. So we know that when it comes to the story of how Kemet was united under Narmer, we have enough physical evidence and empirical evidence to say that he came up from the south and was basically on a campaign to conquer. When you look at the Narmer palette, when you look at the crystal incense burner that they found in Nubia, and it had inscriptions of the same images that we would see in Kemet, and the same images that we would see on the Narmer palette, but it was in Nubia. Excuse me, famous Egyptologist, and I can't think of his name right now, but I'll look it up and put it in our back check group. He had that thing for like 14 years because he didn't want nobody to know that it was a distinct possibility that the people of Nubia and the people of Kemet were the same people. Now, everybody knew that my namesake, Piankhi, was the first Insu of the 25th dynasty. And so a lot of times they would try to say that that was the only indigenous African dynasty in Kemet's history. But once this incense burner that predated the 25th dynasty and just about, I think it was down to like the 8th dynasty. And you can fact check me on that. Once they found that, they knew that wasn't true anymore. And he had this thing in his closet till he died. It took his friend to bring it out of the closet and actually bring it to a UNESCO conference and reveal it to the world. Like, yeah, we found this in Nubia. And, you know, my friend had this for X amount of years because they didn't want nobody to know. And he actually got blackballed from the Oriental Institute for sharing that information. It's crazy the lengths that they would go to keep certain things that are kind of obvious away from people. When you look at the Table of Nations, like that it's a picture that how the ancient people of Kemet saw themselves and saw other Africans and saw what we would call other Mediterranean people. It's clear how they, like, I don't even understand, but it's just hard for certain people to fathom that a civilization like that could have been established by us or people like us. You know what I mean? So, you know, I get it, but I digress. So while I give them credit for admitting that we, you know, the ancient people of Kemet were black, you still get an X for trying to say, oh, they were black, but they were different. Because there's always a caveat. Why we can't just leave it at what it was?
So let me ask you this one last question, because I'm asking as a person who's genuinely curious about this, because like I said, I read about both sides of the argument, not to the depths that you may have, but I got at least a working understanding of what both sides are trying to say. So like when you say that Narmer came up from the south looking to conquer, who exactly was he looking to conquer further up north?
The people who had already settled in Kemet, the people who had settled along the Sudan, because people got to understand, there was kingdoms, the Kushite kingdom in Nubia and other kingdoms in the Sudan and going up the Nile Valley region. These areas had already been established. Like there's more pyramids in Kush and in Nubia than there are in Kemet. So these places had already been inhabited. And so Narmer, his campaign or his conquest, so to speak, was about taking all of these territories and ruling them under one banner, so to speak. But the thing about Nubia, it wasn't going to be conquered. So once he left that area, his city state or whatever you want to call it, or at least this is what the speculation is, that was sort of left behind. And as he conquered the two lands, or Taseti, as they would call it, that kind of went by the wayside. Whereas many millennia later, when Piankhi did it, Piankhi conquered the two lands in Kemet and went back to Napata because he didn't want the same thing to happen to him that had happened before, where he sort of lost his homeland while he tried to conquer this new land. So he went back home and he left his brother in charge of Kemet. So, but that's the thought pattern that he was already, for lack of a better word or term, a warlord of sorts, not necessarily a king, but the Kemetic culture was already, as we said, by evidence of the Kustal incense burner and other artifacts, that culture was already permeating in those areas. Hence why he already had the crown of Upper and Lower Kemet, or what will become the crown of Upper and Lower Kemet, placed on his head before he while he was on that campaign. So the thought pattern is that he was already a warlord of sorts, or some kind of, not necessarily a king, but right up like a notch or so under that, and decided that upper and lower, what would become upper and lower Kemet, were ripe for takeover. Because these two lands had been in existence, but had been divided for however long by the people who had already inhabited it. And then here he comes, and he takes over the land, puts this new spiritual tradition in place that these people had a semblance of, but had not been following. When you look at like some of the behaviors and some of the art, or what we would deem as art anyway, in caves, on walls and stuff like that, he sort of, conquers and puts things in order and starts the first dynasty. And then we have the dynastic period, which starts in Kemet from his initial actions. So in a lot of ways, for me, you could say Narmer is the most important person in not only African history, but in Western history, because I think that regardless of what people would like to say about Rome and Greece, they took cues from Kemet, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. And that's because they took cues from Kemet. That's why Europeans have a hard time grasping that Kemet was ruled by African people and letting the notion that they weren't African people go. They'll say they was Arabs. They'll say they were Asians, Sumerians, anything but the continent that the country actually sits on. So, but that's my spiel.
Okay, that was an interesting take on it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe me and you could do a show about that in the future, but
no doubt. Maybe you could sit in with me and the Getty, if we able to get that on the 15th. I got some information I'm compiling.
Yeah, he actually he better suited to have the conversation with you than me anyway, so I'll sit in and listen, definitely.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I actually want to go at it from two. I want to talk to him about Narmer because he got an interesting he has an interesting assertion about Narmer that I want to discuss, and then I want to talk to him about the other dynasties, because he admits that the 25th dynasty was black, but I want to see if he objects to the idea that the other dynasties were black. So, but and then because this is something that's difficult for people to digest. Michael Edwards, like he pulled up, I think it was Ramses the Great, and I don't know if he was addressing Polite or Jabari. He was saying that's not you, and that's a white man. Now forget that this is like a 4,000-year-old mummy, or however old it is. But he was saying it's a white man. However, when you test the DNA, it's E1B1A, sub-Saharan African. So, and it's just proof that these Africans would come from other places, become ensconced in the Kemetic culture, tradition, and find themselves in a royal lineage and actually become the rulers of this nation. Because if his DNA was E1B1A, he wouldn't have been indigenous to Kemet, the country, that means he would have come from another part of the continent. So particularly the part where our direct ancestors would have come from, because a lot of us carry that marker of E1B1A. So just some interesting little snippets of history and science that's thrown out there, and you like, how could that even be a thing? But it is what it is. So yeah, we definitely can have that conversation and see what conclusions we come to. But I'm always eager to learn.
Yeah, likewise, bro.
Any closing remarks on what you just laid down for the people?
Yeah, man. Just if anybody's out there and they've either walked away from Christianity, or they're on the fence about Christianity because of some of these claims, I would implore them to definitely research, these claims. Even if you don't believe me, just fact check it for yourself. Do a compare and contrast, because it ain't that hard to do. There's plenty of resources out there to help out with that. And I say all that to say, don't make the mistake I made and walk away from Christianity and embrace Kemetic spirituality based on a fallacy. Now, if you want to embrace Kemetic spirituality, that's your prerogative, but don't do it based on a fallacy or false information. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I got to say about it.
That's peace. That's peace. Let the people know where to find you, man, and we're gonna get out of here.
You can find me on Facebook, you know what I'm saying, at Jerome Green. You can also, if you feel the need, you can email me. You can contact me on Facebook, email me at jeromegreen47@yahoo.com.
That's what's up. And you can also find our brother as the co-host of Trust and Believe the Gospel with our brother Nobody. And as he'll tell you, that's Mr. Co-host to you. You can also find him here on Paradigm Shift TV, laying down that work like he did today. He is our resident conscious Christian. So as always, brother, it was a pleasure to have you on. I'm always learning something from you, so I definitely enjoyed it. It was definitely powerful. And so until next time, we'll chop it up. Maybe next time we'll be more of an adversarial situation. But either way, I definitely appreciated it. And with that, family, just be on the lookout for more content, especially for me and my brother Nobody. Our brother, the conscious Christian Jerome Green, will be jumping in as well. Brother Shabaka, some of the other brothers from the team. So just be on the lookout. We're going to be bringing new content to you, coming up with some new things to keep you informed, keep you educated, and help you make an informed decision on where you want to go with your spiritual invocation, as well as things political, philosophical, and otherwise. So this has been Paradigm Shift TV 314. Gerald Massey has been debunked by the conscious Christian. And we'll see y'all next time. Hotel. Peace.